The pharmaceutical company Moderna believes its COVID-19 vaccine will work against new variants of the virus found in the UK and South Africa. The company says antibodies triggered by the vaccine can recognize and fight the variants, but it still wants to test the addition of a second booster of its vaccine. That would make 3 shots needed in total. The new strains are more transmissible than the original. They've been spreading quickly in a number of nations. And because of the spread of the new variant, several countries have introduced a new wave of flight and travel restrictions. The UK is shortly going to announce the idea of a 10-day hotel quarantine. It will be for British nationals arriving from countries with the new strains. Most non-Britons in those parts of the world, they're already banned from entering the UK. Israel, it stopped all commercial flights in and out of its territory. Belgium has closed its borders to non-essential travel. The United States is not allowing anyone from the EU, Brazil or South Africa in. And speaking of the United States, it appears as if California may just have discovered its own new strain. Senior clinical lecturer at the University of Exeter's Medical School is Dr. Bharat Pankania. He joins us now from the UK. Doctor, thank you once again for joining us. I want to give you a statistic. It's an official statistic from the British government from a few months ago, which found that there was a 0.1% difference in the transmission of coronavirus between people who are already living in the UK and those who arrived from abroad. So how effective can border closures really be?
It's very difficult, because border closures in an industrialized nation where there's a lot of traffic, people bringing in goods, services, as well as tourists and business people, very, very difficult. But what we've got to do is, that doesn't mean we throw up our arms and say, can't do it, nothing we can do. It is much better to say, we are going to bring in control measures. We really should have had control measures a long time ago. So in a way, this idea of quarantining people coming in is not a bad idea. We need to consider all options.
The idea of closing borders now compared to, as you say, originally sort of possibly in March or April last year, are you surprised at the evolution of the pandemic? For so long we've been hearing, oh, it'll be okay by this date, and then that date gets pushed back. Dr. Anthony Fauci, the infectious disease specialist in the US, recently said probably not until autumn are we going to see some sort of normality. So maybe September or October. Has the evolution of the virus surprised you?
No, it hasn't surprised me at all. And I tell you what the conflict is. We've got politicians who wish to spread good news is around the corner, and then they raise expectations and hopes and business planning. Whereas actually it is better to be honest, truthful and upfront with our people and say this is for the long haul. And I'm also reminded that unless every nation behaves as if all the other nations are one nation, the Indian expression of Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, meaning the whole world is my family. If we don't act in that way of suppressing infection in your country, my country, and every country, we will continue to have these problems.
But surely that's exactly what looks like happening, because you have some parts of the world, I believe the vaccination programs are happening in roughly around 50 countries or so. But there are 199 countries, I believe, that are members of the United Nations. So most of the world doesn't have vaccines at the moment. So if we have those countries have vaccination programs in place, closing their borders, trying to resolve their own coronavirus situations, are we going to create a two-tier world, practically 2 different planets that we live on? One where vaccinations have happened and people are returning slightly to normal, and one where people are simply trapped in their own territories and can't leave.
Yes, you are absolutely spot on, and this is the problem we are creating, and nothing is watertight, and therefore it is absolutely imperative for strong politicians to say we are going to immunize nationally and internationally, and we are going to help the poor nations to have their vaccine program as well. In fact, it needs authority like we are going to make sure we build new plants to make new vaccines to enable other parts of the world to also be immunized. It has to be the need for powerful politicians to take those actions is today.
As a medical practitioner, I know you're going to hate this, okay? But a sociologist in the United Kingdom says the country, and let's take the UK as a global example, the country will eventually reach a point where the level of death from COVID-19 becomes socially acceptable to the majority of the population, and therefore the country will begin to ease restrictions, even though people are still dying from corona. Does that make sense to you?
It does, and it's very unfortunate because already when I mention things like we've got cases of 1,000 per 100,000, it's water over a duck's back. We've got 100,000 deaths. 100,000 deaths equals a Wembley Stadium full of people, and they've all died from COVID disease. And we are getting desensitized. We need to keep on reminding people that these are our brothers, sisters, family members who are dying, and we need to do all we can to protect lives. We must. We mustn't get desensitized.
Dr. Bharat Pankhania, I can never thank you enough, honestly. Thank you so much. Always instructive to hear your analysis.